Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. And today we finally get to talk about Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros Spider Man. We all know what a Spider Man is at this point. I mean, he's had like the Spider Man characters at so many movies in the last 2 decades. It's crazy. I mean, we all know about him. The Tobey Maguire movies, Andrew Garfield movies, the Tom Holland movies. You know, and with all those live action movies, I mean, some are definitely better than others, but there is a lot of success when it comes to the Spider-Man movies. I mean, the original Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man changed the game for superhero movies, brought it to a whole new level of success. It was the first movie to open with like 100 million opening weekend, so a very important movie. Spider-Man 2 made slightly less than that, but still did fantastic. Spider-Man 3 broke the opening weekend record, and although it made less domestically than the first two, it made more worldwide, so that's good. But then disaster struck. Spider Man 4 got killed and was replaced by Amazing Spider Man with Andrew Garfield. And the first Amazing Spider Man did fine enough financially, but the second one made less, noticeably less. And that led Sony going, you know what? Maybe we should do something. Maybe we need the Avengers to save Spider Man. So they made the deal with Marvel, and then that's how we got Spider Man in the MCU with Captain America Civil War. Then it was Spider Man Homecoming, which stopped the bleeding when it came to Spider Man movies. And not to mention, then there's, Infinity War and Endgame. Then Far From Home was the first Spider Man movie to make $1 billion. They got No Way Home, which pretty much saved the movie theater industry by itself. Make it like having the second biggest opening weekend ever, making 1.9 billion. So yeah, Spider-Man, a big old history of success. But there's one movie I haven't mentioned yet when it comes to these Spider-Man movies, and that's Into the Spider-Verse. The reason why is because it's very different from every other Spider-Man movie we have here. Because this, not only is it animated, it's not live action, it's animated, but the main character isn't Peter Parker. No, it's Miles Morales, a different Spider Man. So this has like a different perspective than the usual live action movies. It doesn't follow the typical format of those movies. And there's also the fact that, in addition to Miles Morales, you have a bunch of other Spider people. You got Peter B. Parker, you got Spider Gwen, Spider Noir, Spider Ham. He's not here. And then Penny Parker over there. But yeah, it's the Spider Verse. There's a whole bunch of Spider people. And when this came out, no one really knew what to expect because this movie was very unique. Because sure, there are a bajillion animated superhero movies, particularly like in the direct to DVD space. Like DC dominates that space. I mean, Marvel used to do them, and then they just stopped. um, and not to mention we've had animated superhero movies before, The Incredibles, Megamind. Nothing new, but this was different because it was already based off a well-established character in the form of Spider-Man, and had this unique style to it that was unlike any animated movie that had come out before it. So no one really knew what to expect. And when it came out, it kind of became like a slow burn. I mean, it had like a 35 million opening weekend, which seems like hella small for Spider-Man. But this wasn't like the live action Spider-Man movies, so it was its own thing. But it had really good legs. It made 190 million domestic, 375 million worldwide. on a 90 million budget, that's pretty darn good, even though it's nowhere near on the level of the live action movies. But what helps is that word of mouth was really strong. And that word of mouth translated, once the movie left theaters, once it went to like streaming and home media and all that, people started to discover it there, and word of mouth spread organically. And now it's considered like almost like an innovator, like very innovative, like almost like a revolutionary to an extent. I mean, like it's become definitely influential for a lot of animated movies these days, like Mitchell's versus the Machines, Bad Guys, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the upcoming Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. All definitely, took some notes from Into the Spider Verse. And you know your movie's good when other movies, take, you know, um, are inspired by it. And I know people have actually compared Into the Spider Verse to, like the Matrix when it comes to the impact it had. Like with the Matrix, like I can't really say what happened like before the Matrix came out because I didn't exist yet. But I like to imagine when people saw like previews for the Matrix, people were like, "What in the hell is this?" And then when it came out, it blew everybody's minds. And then like a whole bunch of movies, you know, were inspired by it, took elements of it, and yeah, now the Matrix is considered like this revolutionary sci-fi film, and that's pretty much what Into the Spider Verse is for animation. So yeah, and now here we are, 4.5 years later, with the sequel, Across the Spider Verse, which is technically a part one because this is a two-part sequel. Because the second part of this story is Beyond the Spider Verse, and that doesn't come out till next March. So this is just part one of the sequel. But yeah, still like brand name recognition of Spider-Man, the overall success of Spider-Man on the big screen, and the success of Spider-Verse. All those are pros. That's like three pros in one. Definitely. And so yeah, definitely. So that's all those are pros. I might as well keep going with Into the Spider-Verse. Like this is a sequel. Like I know people usually complain about sequels these days, how a lot of them just feel like unnecessary and forced. And I get that because a lot of them are forced. Definitely. But this is one of the few where people are like, no, I need to watch this. Like this is a sequel people want to see. Okay, this isn't like a Shazam 2 where like the first movie like Shazam did well enough, but then when it came to the sequel, no one gave a fuck, dude. It bombed terribly. That's not going to happen here because people actually care about Across the Spider-Verse. Like this is like imagine this was pretty high on a lot of people's most anticipated list for 2023 because of the reputation of its predecessor. Like this is like the sequel effect in overdrive. Like with a sequel, like you have a ideally your predecessor should be well received and make money, and that goodwill translates over to the next movie. That's happened with many movies in the past, many sequels in the past, like Shrek 2, The Dark Knight, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. There's so many that I'm trying to like think of, like off the top of my head. Uh, Trying to think of some of the more notable ones. John Wick, definitely. You can count all the John Wick movies. Um, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Captain America Winter Soldier. There's too many. I'd be here all day if I listed them all. But yeah, this is definitely like a sequel people want to see. And that's obviously a good thing. So that's a definite pro right there. Another pro is that reviews are very, very, very strong, as I thought they would be, because there was no way this movie was going to be shit. I refuse to believe it was going to be shit. And guess what? It's not shit. It's anything but that. It has a 95% critic score, 97% audience score. how am I gonna label those as bad things? um, and its cinema score, I don't think it's not there. I imagine it's very high. It has to be A plus at least, close to that. I would imagine. So yeah, word of mouth and critic score, all of that is through the roof. It's fantastic. So yeah, word of mouth, it was a big boon for this movie. So yeah, overall word of mouth is a pro, definitely. Another pro is that in terms of competition, there's not a lot out there. I mean, the biggest thing this movie has to deal with right now is Little Mermaid, but that's in its second weekend, and I don't know. I feel like the target demographic for that and this are a little different because Little Mermaid is more female centric. This is more male centric, so they shouldn't cross over too much. And then all the other movies that are out right now are kind of old or kind of played out. So Spider Verse doesn't have to worry about that. Not to mention, like, all the movies coming out after this. I mean, it does get a little more intense, but not super intense. I mean, Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I'm not expecting that to do great. And then, like, the week after, like, Elemental, I'd see that posing no real threat to this. um, Blackening could do fine as counter programming. The Flash, it might hurt it. I don't know. The competition doesn't seem too bad. I think this movie can survive all the competition. I mean, Into the Spider Verse survived Aquaman, Bumblebee, Mary Poppins Returns. If it can survive those, then Across the Spider Verse should survive Transformers, Flash, etc. Okay. So yeah, overall competition isn't too much of a bad thing. I mean, that also helps. Like, yeah, just overall, not a whole lot of family movie competition. Not a whole lot of animated movies recently. The last animated movie we got was Super Mario Brothers, which made a stupid amount of cash in April. So yeah, I'm just gonna say competition isn't a huge problem. So I'm gonna label that as a pro. Trying to think of some more pros. Oh, Thursday previews. Let me tell you about that. Okay. So Across the Spider Verse Thursday previews were are kind of ridiculous because it opened with like 17.35 million Thursday previews, which granted isn't like the best ever, but for what this movie is, it's insane. I mean, comparing this to Into the Spider-Verse, that had a Thursday preview of 3.5. Okay. So Across the Spider-Verse's preview number is 5 times bigger. Like, let that sink in. 5 times bigger than its predecessor. That is madness. That is lunacy. You rarely see a jump like that when it comes to previews. Hell, Across the Spider Verse's previews are better than Into the Spider Verse's whole opening day. Like, that's crazy to me. That never happens. So, yeah, like, compared to his predecessor, it looks downright just mind blowing. And for just animation in general, I mean, unless, well, a lot of people label this as like the second biggest previews ever for an animated movie. The only one that did better was Incredibles 2. Although one could argue Lion King 2019 counts because it's technically animated, even though it's like realistic animation. Eh, I'd rather not. I wish that movie never existed, honestly, but it unfortunately exists, so I have to acknowledge it. So it's the third best, but still crazy numbers here for Across the Spider Verse. This shows that demand is quite high. I mean, for the year, I think this is maybe near the top for the year. It may be the best for the year. I don't know. I could check. Let's see. Uh, Damn, they're all like grouped together like this. It's literally on the same level as Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, or Ant-Man Wasp: Quantumania, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Literally the same level. Mario's not on here because I didn't have previews. Okay? Every box office day it had raw grosses only. It didn't have previews to bump up the numbers. And there's Incredibles 2 of 18.5 million. So there's literally only $1 million behind that. Incredibles 2 had almost like a decade and a half of hype fueling it. This only had like 4.5 years. So that's very remarkable. And yeah, Lion King 2019 had 23 million. But yeah, that movie opened like 191 million opening weekend. Incredibles 2, 182 million. So we're talking like theoretically, this movie could do massive. But I'm not sure if it could reach that though. That seems a little, I don't know. I don't think it will happen. No. That seems a little much. I mean, I thought Top Gun Maverick would reach that, and it only reached 126 million. Granted, it ended up becoming like the biggest thing ever last year. So, yeah, but Cross the Spider Verse, preview wise, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, no complaints. So, preview numbers are amazing. So that's a big old pro, definitely. Cons. I honestly can't think of anything. This movie's going to be a runaway hit. I mean, I guess I could mention competition coming up. I mean, sure, there's Transformers, sure, there's The Flash, but honestly, of all the June movies, I thought this one would do the best, and I thought this was like the safest bet. Yeah, the safest bet when it comes to being a hit, because it doesn't have to deal with like franchise fatigue like Transformers or a lot of baggage like The Flash. And I guess in the case of Indiana Jones, just it doesn't have to deal with a bad or lackluster predecessor. So yeah, this movie has everything going for it. So no cons. So opening weekend, oof. Originally, like a couple weeks before making this video, I thought this would open between like 70 to 80 million, which still would have been really good. But it's clear this movie has the absolute chance to reach triple digits. It's gonna do something that Little Mermaid couldn't do, reach 100 million plus opening weekend. Because Little Mermaid came up just short. I don't think that's gonna happen for Across the Spider Verse. I think it's gonna break that 100 million mark. I don't know by how much though, because this movie could be very front loaded because there's the whole sequel effect and everything. But who knows? Sky's the limit at this point. um, I'm going to say I'm gonna lowball it a little bit and say 100 to 120 opening weekend. That's what I'm going with. I'm lowballing it, although I have a feeling in my heart that it might do better than that. But I'm gonna lowball it just to be safe. Okay. So 100 to 120 opening weekend, which is still like literally 3 times the amount of the first movie, which is insane growth. And overall opening, I guess overall, its legs should be really good. Realistically, I don't see this movie having weak legs. It may have a slightly front load opening weekend, but I see it playing out for like a while, just like its predecessor. Maybe its legs probably won't be as good as the first movie because that opened around Christmas. This is summer, completely different. So I'm gonna say 300 million plus domestically, 300 to 350 domestically. So this will definitely be one of the biggest movies of the year, maybe the whole summer. um, so that's great. That's absolutely great, and I'm glad it's doing well because I saw the movie Thursday. Man, it was an experience, an absolute experience. I'll explain more when I do my June recap, but yeah, I'm glad it's doing like really well right now. So yeah, that was Across the Spider Verse, and that's it for the weekend. Yeah, only 2 movies, which I'm really happy about because last week was miserable doing 5 movies. Ugh. Thankfully, I won't have to worry about that for a while because next week I only gotta do one movie and one movie only: Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Which, I don't know. I am not too bullish about that movie's chances. And then the week after that, probably the most prolific weekend of the whole month because you have The Blackening, got Elemental, and you got The Flash. You got 3 movies coming out, all 3 movies going after different audiences. All 3 could realistically do well, but I feel like The Blackening has like the least problems, least amount of problems surrounding it. Like Elemental has to deal with the fact that it's Pixar. Pixar has been doing the after Lightyear. Ooh, my expectations for this dropped dramatically. And with The Flash, it has to deal with the Ezra Miller problem and the DCEU problem. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about the next 2 weeks. So, stay tuned for all those videos. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I've made this year. I didn't do a prediction video for Into the Spider-Verse. That movie came out like a few months before I actually started making prediction videos on this channel. Fun fact. So now I'm able to actually talk about it. So I'm very happy. So yeah, but prediction videos I made this year, I guess there's like Ant-Man 3, Guardians 3, Shazam 2, if you want to watch like any other superhero movie prediction videos I made this year. So any of those, or any of the ones I've done the past few years, go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I've covered Across the Spider-Verse twice. I'm going to say three times? No, twice. Okay, just twice. The first time was episode 8. Yeah, 8. Long ass time ago, over 3 years ago. I talked about it alongside a bunch of movies. Mission Impossible 7 and 8, movies that have yet to be released. Spider-Man, well, I called it Spider-Man 3 because it didn't have a title yet, but No Way Home. Doctor Strange 2, it didn't have a title yet, it was Multiverse of Madness. Thor Love and Thunder, Uncharted, Tomorrow War, Hotel Transylvania 4, Mitchell's vs. Machines, which was originally called Connected. A lot. That was so long ago. Jesus Christ. That was like the first time I talked about it, episode 8. Then I talked about it again. I believe, was it? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I talked about it again last year. It was episode 117 where it got delayed from it was supposed to come out last year, last uh October, and then it got moved to June, which was definitely, like, in hindsight, a blessing in disguise because a June date is a lot more prolific than a October date. But yeah, that was episode 117. I talked about it alongside Madam Web and Equalizer 3, and that was like the announcement where Across the Spider-Verse was split into 2 movies. You have Across the Spider-Verse now and then Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. So yeah. I talked about it those 2 times. So if you want to watch those episodes or any other ones I've done the past, if you want to watch, there's like 192 episodes, so you have plenty to choose from. So want to watch any of those cancel episodes, you want to watch them all from beginning to now, highly encourage you to do that, so go do it. And there's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. May recap will come out next week. It's going to be a lot to discuss. A lot of it won't be very good. It won't be very positive. but there is a lot to discuss. And with June, that video will come out. I feel like, I guess this the first, second ish week of July, like probably around the same time Dead Reckoning Part 1 comes out, I would imagine. So, yeah, around that time, that's when the June recap will come out. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos on Man the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.